All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you will enjoy this. Should be fun. Just get rid of this. Okay, off we go. So today, let's start with who I am. I'm not an expert in relationships, although I've had several. When I used to live in Melbourne about 5 years ago, when we went out to international events and they asked us, hi, what's your name? Second question is always, what do you do? And we used to reply, I'm a sex therapist, which was very, very successful because everyone was interested, but I'm not a sex therapist, so that's a disclaimer. What I do is I help others change their reality or manage their perceptions of reality while they're having fun in the process. And of course, drug dealers do that as well, but I'm not a drug dealer. This is my website. I put it up on the chat as well. If you want to visit, there's lots of free material, lots of applications, interesting stuff. I'm the author of a couple of books, as Wessam said. And thank you very much, Wessam, because I always forget. Thank you for these wonderful meetings. One is on the psychology of change, how we're born beautiful babies, beautiful princes, and eventually we become frogs. So how can we revert back to princes, change things in our lives? There's a lot of humor, as you will see in the presentation as well. The second one is about idiots who tend to ruin our day, and they're everywhere. But it's the others, not us. So this one is about stress and changing the way you see your life or changing your life, again, but with a focus on problem solving. And you can buy them from my website for $5. The ebook. All right, off we go. A little geography. This is where I am right now, not far away from Ukraine. And let's start with trivia, with interesting facts. According to the website, couples in Greece have the most sex, approximately 164 times per year. The average is 103. I hope you're above that. So this is a quick picture of Thessaloniki, the harbor. Lots of buildings, little grass, little green. So here we go. There's a lot of interesting questions when you talk about attraction, then you talk about love and relationships, and how do we end up ruining, destroying our relationships. So there's a lot of material, a lot of questions. And we're gonna just answer a few of these, and hopefully you'll come up with more. And perhaps next time we can talk a bit more about your questions. Let's start again with interesting facts, surprising scientific facts. The people that we meet tend to have a different immune system, so we're complementary in that sense. We tend to find them more attractive. And there's biological explanations behind that. Here's another one. So everybody wants to feel happy. Everyone wants to feel good. One option is to take cocaine. The other is to hug someone, fall in love, make love, similar effects. If people cannot produce the pleasant chemicals by themselves, they need to get them from outside, either by eating or chocolates and stuff, or drinking, or taking drugs and stuff. And one more. So you can read it. I hope you got large screens. No? Hope you're not on your phone. And the last one, spending time with people who love you reduces the risk of an early death by 50%. I'm actually just finishing a course at Yale, a massive online open course, or MOOC, on the science of well-being. And the lecturer describes, it's a wonderful course, it's free. And the lecturer describes the things that stop us from being happy, and then describes what we should do in order to feel happier. And relationships, social relationships and personal relationships are one of the most important factors that contribute to happiness. So one would assume that we would cover this topic extensively in school, except most kids have to find out on their own. We do a little bit, should be more, and there should be more of these skills for health and well-being. And of course, understanding gender and bullying and stuff. All right, so the first part. We all have a need to belong. And one explanation is that earlier, in ancient prehistoric times, 10 hands would be better than 2 in hunting and doing jobs that people needed to survive. The problem is that affairs tend to lead to babies. So that's an important part of our life. And also, according to studies, 1/3 of our waking time is spent on relationships, talking to others, listening to others. Unfortunately, a lot of our waking time is spent alone as well, in front of screens lately. This is one of my PhD students. So let's talk about attachment and relationships, which is a central part in human life. And it's always pleasant how babies coo and smile. But there's also the other side, how they cry and whine. So when we discuss happiness, we also talk about being married or not, who's happier, being in a relationship, being alone. And studies also show that when you don't have attachment, when you're a young kid, when you're not securely attached to your parents, then kids grow up and they have negative emotions and withdrawal symptoms. So of our relationships and our safety, confidence. I just talked about the attachment theory by Bowlby. And there's secure and insecure relationships and ambivalent with the parents. Insecure is sometimes you feel happy, sometimes you feel loved by your parents, loved, sometimes you don't. Secure is when you always feel they're next to you and they love you. And these are the 4 attachment styles. And I'll let you look at the screen for a minute. So the secure would be the healthiest one. Anxious, when you grow up and you fear that your parents don't love you and they will abandon you, and you need reassurance. And you can think of whether these childhood years will affect your adult life. Of course, the effect is not always as big as Freud would assume, because we find people who grew up in difficult environments and they live happy, healthy lives. Avoidant attachment styles, when your parents or you cannot express emotions and you tend to emotionally withdraw. You're unwilling to communicate and ask for help. And disorganized, when there's a variety of these, anxious and avoidant styles. Low self-worth is a result, and fear of rejection, difficulty with intimacy. So look back at your younger lives, younger years, and think, what sort of attachment did you have? And do you think this has affected your relationships today? Ostracism is another phenomenon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the word. There's been several experiments when you have a group of people, for instance, 3 or 4, tossing a ball around the table. And after tossing it a couple of times, the confederates, 3 of them, for instance, start playing with them, among them, and they all toss the ball to you. The picture is related. Imagine you go out and people talk between them and they don't talk to you. And When you're in situations like this, these are the feelings: depressed mood, anxiety, hurt feelings, withdrawal. It affects women more than men. And today we have what we call cyber ostracism when it happens online, digital life. Of course, it affects a lot kids who don't have a lot of self-esteem yet. Now, attraction and friendship factors. So let's look at friendship factors as well before we dive into relationships and attraction and love and marriage and stuff. One factor that affects relationships is proximity. And studies show that almost 40% of relationships or marriages occur within the same town, and only 20% with people who live in different towns. So it's natural that we come across and we contact people who are living near us. As a result, approximately, I can't see the number now, I think it's 20%. One in five in every five Americans, stupid of me, the font should be black. So it's one in every five Americans has indulged in sex with a colleague at work, which means like it reinforces the previous study because it says we tend to hang around and sleep around with people who are close to us, but it also sends a message to who you should be careful if you're married. Be careful with people at work. Now, one side effect of the familiarity effect and the mere exposure effect is that the more familiar we are with something, the more we like it. And this is what we call the mere exposure effect. And politicians take advantage of this by putting posters and putting their faces in the media and TV all the time. But the side effect is that if we are unfamiliar with, for instance, people of a different color or a different culture, then we tend not to like it. So the researchers are wondering, is prejudice unavoidable because of this phenomenon if we're not familiar with people who do not look like us, or we haven't seen them a lot, then we tend to dislike them. So let's move to, these were two factors that increase familiarity and relationships and friendships. But let's be a bit more specific. Let's talk about physical attractiveness. And we're going to discuss who is attractive, who do we find attractive according to their facial characteristics, what is it that we tend to like, men and women. And is attractiveness subjective or is it objective? In other words, is it determined by time and place? And you're probably thinking, yes, because in older years, the people who were considered to be attractive were somewhat different to the ones that we consider attractive today. And you've seen paintings from the 1600s and 1800s. But a big part of it tends to be universal. When you ask people in different cultures, who do they like, you present them with different photos, people tend to like people with certain faces with certain characteristics. I'm going to see what these characteristics are, and hopefully you can compare yourself to them. So what is it that makes us attractive? And look at this face for a second. Perhaps you want to type in the chat box, what do you think does this face look attractive to you? And what do you think? Why is this face attractive? I'm just waiting to see whether you're gonna, yes, it's beautiful. Symmetric, Roy says. Symmetry, symmetrical. Yeah, you guys are advanced. You can go. You don't need to attend this course. You need to study other material. Feminine creatures, clean, trustworthy, symmetry. Cynthia. Yeah, so yes, you are right. According to other studies, symmetrical faces tend to be liked more. And again, the evolutionary explanation is that they have better genes. Symmetry. People, even babies, tend to prefer average looking or symmetrical faces. So when you present pictures to babies of symmetrical and asymmetrical faces, babies spend more time looking at symmetrical faces. So the conclusion is to be really attractive is to be really average. And if you take a computerized product of, say, 1,000 pictures, and you ask the computer to take the average of these photos, then the person will look like the one I showed you before. So again, the evolutionary explanation to attraction. Why do we like symmetrical and faces that are, we consider them to be attractive? According to studies, again, healthy genes. Yes, Navita, thanks for your answer. And we find that females prefer more attractive, more masculine faces during their, which, infertile or fertile periods? Fertile periods, correct. Whereas when they're not fertile, they hang out with us, with average-looking, not so masculine people. So beauty corresponds to important information for the person who wants to mate. Men prefer fertile-looking women, and women prefer males who can provide, who can take care of their babies and themselves. And it looks like the evolution-related forces, the ones that we mentioned, are more important. They have a higher impact than cultural influences. So the next question, do similars attract, or do complementary characters tend to flock together? And there's a saying, birds of a feather flock together. Is that right? Is that correct? Or do opposites attract? Because there's another saying, opposites attract. Which one is correct? So folk wisdom can be occasionally wrong. A lot of the times is wrong. Similars attract. A bit of both, says Omina. Laura, similarities, Sadik, similar. What about your partner? Are you similar, or values should be similar? Both similar. Can you think of how we would design a study that could test this question? So I wonder, research question, do similars tend to attract when they first meet? Let's not do it for marriage, because the study that I'm going to describe is that it was done with couples who just met. So I keep seeing your answers. Similars stay together. All right. How would you design a study to test this question? Do similars or dissimilars in character? First, you need to define what you mean similars. And let's define it as similar in values, in characters, in interests. So the study that I'm going to describe was done, conducted in 1970s. And what the researchers did, they designed it, they selected participants from the university, because as we all know, white American university students are the most representative sample. Just kidding. The study, a lot of the studies are done at the university, where we can access the participants' population easily. So what they did is they posted signs across campus, and they said, would anyone be interested? Would you be interested in a study where we're going to offer you a free date. We're going to match you with someone and offer you coffee or pizza. And of course, a lot of people signed. First, they had them tested. They asked them to come to the office, complete a number of surveys where they found out about the preferences. And then, without the participants knowing, they split them into two groups. There were people in the middle who were sort of similar or sort of dissimilar, but they didn't want those. They wanted one group who were dissimilar, one group who were similar. So after they've done that, they called them and they said, come to the cafeteria at that specific time, and you're going to meet someone and spend half an hour with them and enjoy drinks, coffee on us or pizza. And what do you think they would do to find out the answer to the question? What do you think the researchers did? Obviously, they would try to observe them, sit next to them, and listen to them. Well, you can't do that because you're going to affect them. And at that time, they didn't have cameras and microphones and stuff easily available. So what they did is they sat on the table next or a little bit further away, and they observed. What would you measure as an indication of whether this couple was attracted one to another? What do you think the measures would be? What would you assess in order to say, I think that couple was sort of attracted to each other, the other one was not? So perhaps type non-verbal cues. Yes, Cynthia, correct. Exactly what? Communication style. Proximity, says Sadiq. Now, which one of these suggestions is more objective? Touch, whether they touch. Body language, okay. Flowing communication, how long they keep eye contact. Frequency of smiling, yeah, you can measure that. But imagine that you're sitting next to them and you want to be as objective as possible. And if there were 2 or 3 of us, you needed to have inter-rater reliability. So you would probably give the same marks. Age difference, behavior. Okay, but someone mentioned, who was it? Something that is objective, and that was, I'm trying to find out, proximity. Sadiq, correct. 10 points to Sadiq, because that's something that you can sort of estimate, calculate easily. Smiling was also good, but I think they didn't measure smiling or body language in general. You need to specify what exactly you're going to measure. So the measured proximity, what else do you think is very, very objective, and you can measure it easily using apparatus, instruments? I mentioned that they were supposed to stay there for 30 minutes, right? So if you didn't like someone, how long would you stay? Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, you'd say, so I forgot the tap running, I gotta go. Not very long. If you liked someone, as you mentioned, you would touch the person, so you would be close. But yes, correct, length of time, length of the date, my so that you look for an escape. Excellent. So they measured these 2 variables. What else do you think they did after the meeting? They asked them to come up to the office, complete a few measures as well. And then a week later, they would call them up and say, hi, do you remember the person you went out? I can't find his name on my list. Do you remember his name or her name? And what do you think? People who liked someone would tend to remember the name or not? Sadiq, yes, of course. If you like someone, if you're introduced to 5 people in a row, and let's say this is Angelos, and this is George, and this is John, and whatever, who would you remember? The one that you like. There's also another phenomenon, the proximity, the recency, and you remember the first person and the last person, but never mind. You would remember, if you were interested in someone, their name. By the way, what's my first name? Good to see you. Nobody likes me. Nobody remembers my name. All right, it's Angelos.
Angelos is very stupid as a question. No one is in a date with you.
Sorry, Massimo, I couldn't hear you, but can you
I
hold
told
on?
you no one is in a date with you. So
That's true. Good
what are
job.
you searching? A company.
It was a joke.
Okay.
It was a joke.
My too.
So what do you think the results showed? According to the study, according to the results, who was attracted to someone else? Was it similar, or was it people who were dissimilar? I'm reading your answers. Familiar. So how many of you vote similar and how many of you vote dissimilar? Because dissimilars, there is an argument. They tend to like different things and they complement each other. Both similar. Yeah, I could do a vote and quickly see. Never mind. But you're right. No, it's probably 60-40, but similar. People who are similar, who have similar characteristics and similar values and preferences. They tend to like music, similar music, hopefully. They tend to like going to the movies and eat healthy food, exercise, for instance. So according to this study, and that was one of the first studies, similar people tend to like others who have similar values. People like people who have similar values. Now, if you take it to extreme, then you would say, hang on, if it's similar, men should like men and females should like, no, we're talking about dating with straight people. And I'm, I'm, I'm not sure, but it's probably done with other preferences as well. But we're talking about physical attraction and dating. And the study showed that people with similar personality, interests, and values, none, correct, tend to be attracted. The question is, would they stick together? Would they get married? What you need to do is to do more studies, and more studies have been done, lots and lots and lots of studies, and they all tend to conclude that people with similar characteristics and personalities and interests and values tend to stick together. So here's the first study. No, that's with spouses, but anyway, Bernie did the first study as well. Sharing common beliefs breeds liking. People also like those who behave, who act as they do. So there's a number of studies that confirm this finding that people tend to like similar people. Here's another interesting finding. When you say it's in the eyes, there is some biological evidence that people tend to look into others' eyes, and they tend to synchronize, and they tend to like them if they gaze long. Now, you would avoid someone who you don't like, obviously. Another factor that affects liking is comparing what's valuable, comparing ourselves to others. That affects our self-esteem. And we do that all the time. There's this contrast effect. And we find that if we are shown pictures of very attractive same-sex person, and then we're asked to rate ourselves, we tend to rate ourselves as less, obviously, attractive. And the contrast effect takes place in porno as well. When you're watching porno, then does it increase or decrease satisfaction with your partner if they don't match up to the person you're watching on the screen? Unfortunately, yes, you're correct. It decreases satisfaction. Now, there's a saying that we tend to judge a book by its cover. And here's an opportunity to show the cover of my book, Frog, who drinking and stuff, eating, and changes after reading my book. So we tend to judge other people by the way they look, correct? or not? Do you do that? When shown different pictures, would you tend to judge the way, how attractive they are? And would you be affected in your judgment of their character as well? So in other words, would an attractive person be considered also as interesting, smart, as a good father or good mother? Would appearance, would the way you dressed affect the interviewer? And everybody would agree and say, yes, that grooming influences interviews. Massimo is asking who did the studies. I'm trying to reference each one of these findings, as you can see here. You can go on the internet and find the actual study. So most of my slides have a reference at the bottom, some of them don't, and I apologize. We also find that people who are attractive tend to receive higher salaries. And I think this is a study in the United States where people who are considered to be more attractive, there's a correlation, and we find that they tend to earn nearly $2,000 per year just because they're attractive. But then one would ask, what if, because they're attractive, they have better social skills and therefore are better at their job? So it can go both ways, right? How much time does it take to judge a face? And there's been experiments where we show participants a number of faces quickly on the screen, and we ask them to press a button if they like the person, and another button if they don't like the person. And as you can see here, we're very, very quick to judge if someone is attractive. So let's go quickly. This one, attractive. This one, attractive. More attractive. Which one? So if you were presented with these slides quickly in front of your screen and press the button, we would see that you don't need that much time to judge a face. Now, that's when you're judging a face. What about when you're going on a date? How much, or when you meet someone, how much time do you need to decide whether they're attractive or not? Another study, I don't have a reference, here. It's dating facts, and if you go on this side, you will find a reference to this sentence. So it takes just 3 seconds to decide whether you like someone or not. You look at them in the eye, 3 seconds, that's it. Of course, you probably look at other places, and we're going to see what else you're going to look at when you meet someone. What do women tend to look at, and what do men pay attention to? Of course, so the conclusion of the last few slides is that we tend to judge very quickly, and that attractive people have it better in life in many aspects. You don't need a lot much more to going for you when you're attractive. So attractiveness does breed liking, even after controlling for personality and aptitude tests. It doesn't matter what kind of personality you have, it does affect liking. Even if we put these aside, statistically, we take out the effect of personality and aptitude. So it's important to be attractive because it helps in being liked. And it starts from school, early in life. And we have this attractiveness stereotype. I think someone asked whether you're going to get the slides. Yes, I can put them up on my website where you will see free stuff. But give me a day, and I'll post the link on the Internations on the group's site page, or Western can help. So kids, what about their attractiveness? Would that influence their relationships and their self-esteem and stuff? And the answer is yes. Both children and adults are biased towards attractive peers. So in kids, we see that teachers consider attractive children to be more intelligent and more successful, despite the fact that they are not, or maybe they are, maybe they're not. They tend to think that attractive children are more intelligent and more successful. Sadiq mentioned the study, and Navita correctly said that this is called the halo effect. Halo is angels. And I'm going to see it next on the next slide. And the opposite is called the Bart-Simpson effect. The less children who are not as good looking are considered to be less able and less socially competent. And that's unconscious, Isabel. So the halo effect is thinking that someone who is attractive is also will also be a good parent, will also be a good friend, intelligent, and a good driver, etc., etc. So it has a spillover effect to other qualities that are not guaranteed just by the appearance. So, but there's a question: do maybe beautiful people in fact have desirable qualities? Would that be testable? And yes, this has been tested as well. Attractive children are more relaxed and outgoing, perhaps because other kids are treating them better. College students tended to rate attractive women more skillful and likable, which is again the halo effect, but perhaps they have these qualities. So this was about whether attractiveness affects liking, and it does. And the next question is, what do both men and women look for, or do they differ? Do their preferences differ? Do women look for different things and men for different things? What do you think? Yes, no? So the question is, are there differences in what women and men look for? And I'm waiting for a few seconds. Yes. Oops, I missed that one. Yes, there is a difference. So people look for different things. Men look for different things and women look for different things. What do you think women would look for? Now let's have the women reply first. What do you look for when you meet someone? Where do you focus? I'd like the women to answer. Connection, okay. In terms of physical, honesty, that's personality. Personality again, kindness and respect. What about physical qualities, attraction, attractiveness things? Would you look at a particular part of a guy? Financial security, charming, expressive eyes, smart, calm. Cynthia, Carol, nice open face, intelligent, warm and welcoming. Most women look for money. A mix of looks and personality. Okay, good, good. Thank you very much. What about men? What do you think women are looking for? Do you agree with what you just read? Now, let's have the men reply. Eric, money, of course.
No, the women pay attention at the ankle of the man. It's by instinct.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing.
Confidence, yes, confidence is important. What do you offer? Financial, attractive, good looking, good body shape. Not sure. Lovely. And what do men, now guys, your turn to reply. What do you look for? Now, this is being recorded, but no one will see it. So be honest. Thank you. Okay, attractive, good looking, body shape, nice face, go for looks, playfulness, beach look, attractiveness, coolness, loyalty, attractiveness. So you see that men have agreed that we tend to look for attractive characteristics. Honesty, Eric. Okay, let's look at the studies. Well, that's, I'm not sure if that's from a study, but I found it on the interesting facts. It makes sense. The way men stand and they present themselves is very important in first impression for women. Now here are some answers from Fact Retriever again. They do cite evidence studies. 43% said the fresh breath matters a lot on a date. 17% stylish clothes, fragrance, good skin. Oh no, hair. Well, it's only 10%, so all right. Now, this is from Pew Research Center. So this is based on surveys, right? And there are limitations, but what do women look for in men? The top value that comes up is honesty and morality. Second, as you mentioned, success, money, what they can offer, they can provide and support their relationship. Ambition, leadership, strength, and goes down 11%, physical attractiveness. If we go on this side, there's intelligence, 8%, politeness, 5%. Of course, these vary across people, women, but men tend to agree that physical attractiveness is the number one, and we've seen it in this group as well. Then we have kindness, empathy, intelligence, honesty, and the other personality characteristics. So here we have physical appearance. Here, physical appearance is sixth, 10% only. Now, because not all of us were born beautiful models, I realized it a few months ago. It took me a while, but I realized that I'm going to become a top model. There are some tricks we can do to improve our chances, and one of them is to wear blue. Another trick, if you go on a dating site, put a picture of yourself next to a group of women, 2 or 3 women in a bar, where they're smiling. Because studies show that when you present it with the same picture of the person sitting with male friends or alone, they're not as attractive. They're not rated as attractive as when the same person, same picture is presented with other women who are smiling, because it indicates that they find it interesting and newsworthy, and probably something like that. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the matching phenomenon. We found out that people tend to be attracted to people who are similar to them, in terms of attractiveness and other characteristics and values. And it's more likely that we approach people who are similar to us, and not people who are much better or much worse than us in these characteristics. There's an exception. There are some exceptions to the rule. There's what we call the youth money exchange, which we take advantage of, because normally, up until a few years ago, men tend to earn, well, still, men tend to earn more money, and they exchange them to attract more youthful women. So here's a tip for you. If you put your profile on a dating site and you do earn a lot of money, then chances are, if you post your job or your income, then you're going to receive more emails than those who don't earn a lot of money. Now, I don't recommend you lie. So this was the first part of a long two-part series on attraction and love and relationships and marriage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just give you an outline of how to go about studying this material if you wish. And then I'm going to keep it short and take some questions because it looks like you're hungry for discussion. And so I'm just going to end up in 5 minutes. What we did today, let me go back to slide number 1. I'll go quickly. See if I can do that. Oh. Apologies, I typed 1. This is who I am, where I'm from. So we only talked about this part. And the next time we're going to talk about this, which is equally as interesting. What is love? And we're going to talk about the theories of love. Can we stay in love forever, or is it that love and passion fade away and then something else comes up? And what can we do to avoid things going wrong, to maintain the relationships? And if we are to end the relationship, how would we do that? The material that I presented, some of it is from social psychology. Social psychology textbooks always have a chapter on attraction and love. It's one of the subjects of social psychology. So I presented a few interesting facts. I'm just going to go quickly in 5 minutes. Would be nice if we had more of this at school. We talked about the need to belong, which is universal, and there are some explanations here. We spend a lot of time with relationships. These are central. We talked about the attachment theory. The more secure your relationship with your parents was, the better, the more adapted you will become, the healthier relationships you will have according to Bowlby's theory. We talked about ostracism, which is the phenomenon when you're left out in a discussion, game, etc. They don't pass the ball to you, they don't talk to you. We talked about friendship, and friendship in close proximity. So we tend to find people who live close to us, and it's normal. At the office, it's possible that there will be links, relationships. The mere exposure effect refers to the fact that we tend to like people who we tend to see more, we get exposed to them more. Physical attractiveness, who is attractive? Is it subjective? Sort of, but it's also objective. Why is it subjective? Because it tends to change over time. But we do tend to like faces that are symmetrical. And there is the explanation. Average people, symmetrical faces, show that they have good genes. Females tend to go with masculine, more powerful genes when they're fertile. Again, the biological explanation, the evolutionary explanation. We discussed the study that first indicated that similar people tend to hang together, to date, and then we said that there's more studies that confirm the similarity effect. An interesting fact. We tend to compare ourselves to others. A couple of studies showing that when there's good-looking people, pictures, we tend to dislike ourselves a little bit. We said that we tend to judge people by their looks. We talked about the halo effect and how appearance influences our salary, interviews. We're very quickly to judge a face for whether they're attractive or not during dating, meeting someone. We mentioned that attractive people are more liked by others, despite their personality problems, issues. Kids, same thing. Teachers tend to like and consider good-looking kids to be more able. The Bart Simpson effect, the halo effect. And there was a question whether beautiful people tend indeed to have these qualities because they've been treated this way and they have better self-esteem, better social skills, etc. And then we closed with what do men and women look for. Apparently it's different. A tip for men: stand up and move fast. There's another study that says that men who walk fast tend to be liked more by women. A few tips: be careful of these. And this is what women like. Characteristics, personality characteristics. Men put attractiveness at the top. Blue helps, and pictures of other people sitting around you, smiling at you. And people tend to hang around and marry or date similarly attractive people. The youth money exchange phenomenon. And the tip: if you are making money, perhaps it's time to show off a little bit. Now, I'm going to close with the outline of relationships, which if you go to Wikipedia, which is a good start always. I know some of you don't approve, but it's a good start for any topic because they organize material very nicely. So you can see here, if you were to study, if you're interested in relationships and you want to improve your relationships or to teach or to help your kids or whatever, you would probably look into all of these areas one by one, or perhaps focus on some that are more of interest to you. And next time we're going to spend more time in romance and intimacy. And as you can see, there's different types of relationships. There are different relationship partners. How do you manage your relationship? There's always references here that you can go back to and find more. At the end of this presentation, which I'm going to put up on my website and place the link on the group as well, you will find the slides. And at the end of the presentation, you will find lots and lots of nice links that you can go to. All right, so that was enough for me because we already spent